coming up on today's episode.
I'm from an era that is totally gone. Bit by bit, you have become the summation of your conditioning. Do you feel like you still have spontaneity in your life? When you grow up, your heart dies.
God, that hurts. That one hurt.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
Hello, y'all, and welcome to Beyond the Frame. Seated to my right is my good friend Ryan. Ryan, tell the folks out there a little something about you.
Well, I am a writer, director, and longtime cinephile living here in Los Angeles, and I met this guy in an acting class.
It's true. He speaks truth. Ryan speaks truth. And I am Joe Parente, an actor, as you might have gathered from the class that we took, and lifelong movie lover. Ryan went to film school. I went to business school, and we met in the acting class. It's a typical LA story.
Yeah, that's how these things kind of weave in together.
Exactly. And we realized we share a love of movies and good shows, and figured, hey, let's add a couch and a cat and make it public.
Yeah, that's right. A couple of microphones, and here we are.
And here we are. So thank you all for being here. Before you leave, please give us a like and subscribe. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in keeping with our month of May theme of single location movies, Ryan and I are going to discuss today the 1985, I'll call it a classic.
I think that's fair.
Fair enough. The Breakfast Club. It was written and directed by the late, great John Hughes, the master of the coming-of-age genre.
Yeah.
And it stars Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy, and Anthony Michael Hall. I think you can't leave any one of them out.
No, you
can't
gotta
just
list.
say it stars these two people.
Yeah, you gotta list
give the whole
everybody. They're all like pretty much core main.
They are core
characters
main characters, and they are the Breakfast Club. So
They are.
we had to give them their dues. So we also want to welcome your comments. So if you have thoughts
how did you feel about the movie? How did you feel about the theme? Yeah, let us know what you think.
Yeah, because
we love to engage.
Yeah, exactly. So let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So first, we're going to go do the spoiler-free section for those of you who haven't seen this 1985 classic.
If you haven't seen this, man, you've been on a different planet.
I totally agree. Before we get into spoilers, I will let you know. Ryan, first of all, I just want to say I was surprised how hard this hit me when I watched it a few days ago.
You know, when I saw you the other night to celebrate your birthday, happy belated,
Thanks,
and man. You had said that. You had said, wow, I am so surprised how it hit me. And so that kind of not impacted my experience, but I was like, I don't remember Breakfast Club hitting me that hard when I saw it. But I saw it a long time. I mean, I saw it when I was maybe like 15.
Okay.
So it's been a little bit.
Okay.
And so I did not have the same experience. It did not hit me as hard, but I still appreciated it for the film that it was. I mean, it's still a great movie.
And are you talking about when you first saw it or this last time when you saw it?
Both when I first saw it
Got
and
it.
this last time. I appreciated it and I liked it and I enjoyed it, but it did not have the same effect. And I'll talk about why later on.
Yeah, and we will get into that because I want to delve into that because I'd love to hear your perspective, and I will. I just want to throw out a fun fact about this movie, and that is right off the bat.
Please.
Budget of $1 million, took in $51 million. That's a really good return on investment. I did
Isn't
not have
it?
to go to business school to know that that's a really strong ROI.
Was this one of his first, John Hughes?
It was one of the earlier ones. I meant to look up like the list.
I imagine in terms of his filmography, it had to have been, right?
I think it was his
for $1 million
first.
only.
I think it was his first collaboration with Molly Ringwald because she was like freaking 16 when they made this.
Yeah.
Was she 16? Yeah, I think she was 16 because they made it in 84. It came out in early 85.
Yeah.
And then she starred in, many others after that. It's his second.
Yeah. So like you're saying, I mean, that's a huge ROI.
Yeah. I just thought
That's
that
like
was
scary
really
movie
impressive.
ROI. That's
Yeah.
like a horror film ROI. Like nobody can make a movie
Exactly.
for less than,
Yeah, I know.
But I think when you're doing a movie that's set in one location, that does give you a little bit of freedom because that saves so much on the budget.
Absolutely true. Plus, these were future Brat Pack members. They were not
Sure.
current Brat Pack
Are
members.
any of them at this point in time?
That I don't think the Brat Pack existed yet. I think it was so.
Were any of them household names yet?
They had been in other works, particularly look, Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson, and Ali Sheedy were all in their Judd Nelson's the oldest. I think he was 24 when they made it. The others were 22, roughly.
Excuse my ignorance here. What character did Emilio Estevez play?
Anthony. So he played the jock.
Got it.
Yeah.
I thought that when I was watching it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't look it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you
So,
for clearing that up.
Andrew. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Andrew. It's funny. I struggle with that because he didn't look like an Andrew to me. I really struggled with that.
You look like a Billy or something like that.
Yeah, he just didn't look like an Andrew. I'm
Sure.
like, no, that's not the right name for that guy. And I just said it wrong, so that's kind of funny. So I just want to give a brief overview of this movie, quasi/review.
Yeah.
And then we'll really get into
dive
it.
in.
And this takes place, I think most people would know, it just takes place on a Saturday detention at the high school.
Which, by the way, all day.
Yeah, 9 hours.
I had
Brutal.
trust me, I spent my fair amount of time in detention. I was never in 8-hour detention.
Me either.
That's
Well,
like crazy.
I think the way he said it, I thought it was 8 or 9 hours. It was a long time, and the expectation was they're all going to sit there and be quiet and write this 1,000-page essay. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I guess that is a true punishment.
Oh, there's
8
no doubt
hours
that
of
that's
just sitting
punishment.
there.
I mean, that's just wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah, they couldn't change seats. They couldn't get up and go anywhere.
no,
They couldn't talk. They couldn't sleep.
Well, that was right, and that's what supposedly. That's what they were supposed to be doing, and part of what I love about it is, it's like telling cats what to do. You can't really do it.
Yeah,
You know?
It doesn't really work.
And we had all the the typical social groups represented in this movie. You had the popular girl, the princess, if you will, Molly Ringwald, the jock, Emilio Estevez, the nerd, Michael Anthony Hall, the loner weirdo, Ali Sheedy, and the criminal, Judd Nelson.
Yeah, the criminal.
It was a great mix. And the principal in charge of them that day, Mr. Vernon, played by Paul Gleason, is a deeply insecure control freak who orders them to not only stay seated for all that time, but write that freaking essay and about who they think they are. That was what the essay was supposed to be.
What an interesting question to ask a teenager.
Yeah, exactly.
Who are you?
Right. And write 1,000 words about.
Yeah, right.
With this pencil.
Yeah, you can kiss my ass too. Yeah, I know I'd be writing that. Who would you most have been like in this? I'm curious. Of these the Breakfast Club members, who do you think you're closest in relation to?
You mean like when I was in high school?
Yes.
Part of what I was going to say, I'll just say it. Something I liked about myself was I felt like I wasn't just in a clique, or I just wasn't in a group. Like I felt like I could kind of go between them. Mm-hmm. The only group that I didn't know was like the smokers, the stoners, because there was like a smoking area.
Oh,
and
okay.
I never hung out with the smokers because I was an athlete. So
you weren't a stoner. Okay.
I was not a stoner.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, but I liked them. Like, I even liked the people who were in bands.
You should have been class president. Were you ever class president?
No, I never thought of doing that kind of thing, particularly the class presidents we had, I thought were such wankers. So I just didn't want to have anything to do with them.
It just feels like if you're like somebody who gets along with all groups, that you'd feel like the prime time candidate for that.
Well, again, that's also
Prime
my perspective.
King or something.
Yeah, really. Well, and of course, I thought I got along with them. I don't know what they thought.
Sure.
But, God, that's a great question. Probably closest though to the jocks.
Okay. To Emilio Estevez's character.
Not to his character. I'm thinking like
That's
maybe
what I'm
his
saying,
social
though.
group.
If
I
you-
know the character. That's really hard for me
Yeah, because you're not like
because I think I would have
close
liked
to any of them.
all of them.
Right.
Quite frankly,
Right.
Because I did. They all appealed to me.
Okay.
They did. They all appealed to me.
Interesting.
Even the Judd Nelson, because I love how, look, I was very rebellious. And I broke a lot of things. Laws too.
That sounds like the criminal.
And it was totally. And so I'd be able to relate to that guy. But I also
But you were also the athlete.
and I liked the really smart people, and they just all appealed to me. And even the loner weirdo. I think the loner weirdo scared me a little bit more, so I was probably least that way. But as I got
Sure.
older, the loner weirdos became probably the most interesting group to me.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's fair.
And for you?
I'm kind of somewhat on the same level as you. I think I would have, if any of them that I would have been closest to would have been The Criminal, just because I was a burnout in high school. This movie also, for me, this
You
is
were a
something.
burnout. That cracks me up.
Yeah, I was a burnout, so I would have been most like him. But I didn't, obviously not in a lot of the same ways, but I had a great family and great like home life. But I was definitely like a troublemaker and like burnout, smoked weed and all that kind of stuff. Just blew off school, anti, like authority, like totally.
And
But
all I can say is good for you. That's how I feel about that.
But one of the things that, and we're in the review portion, so I feel like I can say this, and this isn't a spoiler, but to me, and I want to get your thoughts on this, this movie felt very dated to me.
It did.
This movie felt very...
Of the
like,
time.
Yeah, it can only exist in this time period, I think. Or at least not, it can't exist today. Because even when I was going to school, we didn't really have cliques. There wasn't really like the popular girls and then the jock. Like there were guys that were athletes, sure, but they didn't all hang out together. They were also smart and also weird and
Right.
also, you know what I mean? Like we didn't
See,
have cliques by the time I got to high school, really.
And this was really what I was curious about today. Talking about this movie with you, I want to know, being the generation, the age that you are, how this hit you. And part of why it hit me so hard, Ryan, was I could see I'm from an era that is totally gone. I mean, it just does not exist anymore. That world does not exist.
Interesting.
And I like to, something that's really important to me is to keep myself updated and current. Like, I don't just listen to music from the 70s and 80s. Like, I want to keep myself updated. It's like updating your phone or your computer.
I respect that.
And so a movie like this is a time capsule, and it takes me back to, wow, like because I don't think about that time, and I don't have a strong thread and connection to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were things that took part in the movie, like right away when detention starts, the criminal, if you will, Judd Nelson, goes right after Molly Ringwald and her sex life. That couldn't happen today.
Oh, God, no.
And it wouldn't, if that were in a movie, people would be calling bullshit. Like, what?
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, that was real. And I remember
Like of the time.
that was so of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, later on, and we will talk about this scene more, when they're all sitting on the floor. And again, the Judd Nelson character is just hammering her. 2 tears. And then she just wipes her tears and they keep going. Would that happen today? Would a young woman sit there and take that and just cry and then kind of suck it up and keep going? I don't think so. It felt, and I'm not saying this made, like, I wish that those kind of times were still here.
Right.
It just showed me, because in some ways things have evolved so much, and in other ways they haven't evolved at all, and they haven't gotten better. There is much more social accountability now. There's much more sensitivity. Look, nobody ever talked about childhood trauma. Like, what?
Yeah.
And so the fact that things are being discussed in this movie about their home life and stuff, that was pretty brave back then.
Yeah, that was
That did not get talked about.
sure.
Now it's normal.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's a good thing.
And right, I do too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the pendulum swings, though. I think sometimes there can be, to me, and I guess I'm of this generation, there's a little bit too much sensitivity. It's like, come on. Because it's important to be able to take some knocks.
I'm in agreement with you there. I think that, like you said, there is a pendulum. There is like a limit to that. It is healthy to be more socially acceptable of those kinds of things and of people opening up and stuff like that. But there is, a point where it goes too far.
For sure.
There's balance in all things.
Yeah.
This might have been not enough, and this movie was groundbreaking in that way, and maybe that's why it had the impact that it did, is that it was groundbreaking. But certainly nowadays, it would feel it felt dated to me.
Yeah.
And again, that's probably just because we're of a different generation, and that's a unique experience.
For sure.
That makes so much sense what you said there of you felt like you're from a time that doesn't exist anymore.
It's true.
That's such a fascinating thought.
You'll know what I mean in 30 years. You will.
Did this come out? Were you a teenager when this came out? Were you early 20s? Like,
I was
when did
21
Okay.
when it came out.
I got to ask my mom about this because I think she was like in her teens.
Okay. Well, and so Molly Ringwald and Michael Anthony Hall were the two youngest. They were 16, 17 years old. And all the rest of them, like I was saying, were 22 to 25, 22, 24. So that was definitely, I was right in that. So I'd been out of high school for a few years, but it's still really connected with me.
Yeah.
I thought, like, as far as filmmaking goes, I thought sometimes it was heavy-handed. I thought it was on the nose a bit. But for me, what made the movie really worth watching were the performances.
Oh, God,
I thought
yeah.
they were super strong. And don't get me wrong, I think John Hughes is good at pacing, and he's excellent at storytelling. And in contrast to a movie that Ryan and I just talked about a little bit earlier, won't go into that now. To me, everything did propel the story.
Yeah, everything was purposeful.
All the scenes were very purposeful and insightful. We even got to see insights into the principal and into the custodian, and to see where are these men in their lives, and how do they look at their careers, and how are they looking at young people.
And that's why it made sense.
Yes.
That we were getting a deeper look because it informs us on how they were treating the kids.
Absolutely true. And I just, the whole, this movie was about, stereotypes and putting people in boxes to a degree. It showed the difficulty of being a teenager.
Yeah. And the we're not so different, you and I.
That's right. And I liked it. I liked how they got there with that.
Totally. Because it's a great story about how they start with we're all so different. I can't relate to you at all in any way. You're weird. You're this, you're that, whatever. And then by the end, by this scene that we'll discuss of them on the floor together, they all, I think, realize and come to and I can't say anything because it's a spoiler, but like there's a specific moment I want to talk about.
Oh boy. I look forward to that. I want to talk about that too. I think part of what makes this movie work for me too, Ryan, is that even though it could be on the nose and a little heavy-handed, there was earnestness in this movie, I thought. It really had respect for these 5 teenagers.
Yeah.
And it really wanted to give them all...
Yeah, it was honest. It was genuine. It was grounded.
Yeah.
It felt very grounded.
It was. It felt like these were... real people with some depth and dynamism to them. And in that sense, a period piece, yes, but just I thought a very human.
And it wasn't cheesy. It wasn't cliche.
That's right.
It was told. The story was told in a really profound way that was both entertaining and moving.
Agreed. I'm glad to hear you say that.
And Hughes had that ability.
He sure did,
as he demonstrated many times.
Many times. So yeah,
that guy understood what it meant to be a teenager, huh?
He did up into the age of 59. He sure did. And part of what I really enjoyed about this movie was the virtually one location aspect to it, because that does add a bit of tension immediately. So which was perfect, because extreme circumstances that's what brings out what's inside of us.
Totally.
And that's what brought out what was inside of all 5 of them.
It's an interesting dynamic. I mean, pitting all these people in this room and forcing them to converse and to coexist with one another despite their different areas.
That's right.
And social statuses.
That's right.
Just is an interesting dynamic. It's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
If you can execute it and you can land the plane.
That's
like
right.
We say.
That's right.
And obviously he definitely did here.
He did. And look, the time that I grew up in was kind of more like bare knuckle fighting. It was there weren't the protections of social groups built in, of gender specific protections. It was
More rugged.
more rugged, a little more Wild West. It's just how it was.
Yeah.
To offend another person was hard. It was hard. That's something I've noticed as I've gotten older, how easily people get offended. In some ways,
Yeah.
I think that's great because they want to stick up for themselves and they want to be respected. I understand that. That's cool. But in other ways, it's like, how seriously does one take oneself?
Yeah.
And when one gets offended, who's having the issue?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Well,
like we
the
said.
person being offended.
There's
taking
a-
offense. They
yeah.
are taking offense. It's their choice.
There's
in a
a
way.
there's a line,
There is a line.
as we said, and that line moves, but sometimes it can go a little bit too far. It's balance.
Yeah.
It's balance in all
Agreed.
things.
Agreed. So I don't know. I thought I thought that. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I thought the movie really comes together when these characters show their vulnerability.
Absolutely. When they get deeper, when they open up,
Yeah.
when they get honest with each other, that's sort of when this movie starts to really get interesting.
It does.
And I love the way that they set this. This is another example. We talk about it a lot, specifically with movies that are good, but the establishing scene
yes.
is just so unbelievably brilliant because all it is us seeing them getting dropped off.
yes, and
but
how
we
they get dropped off.
We figure out everything about these
Yes.
characters by how
Yes.
they're dropped off, and the criminal walking himself.
Walking
there.
himself.
It's just so brilliant.
Ali Sheedy, the loner weirdo, if you will, she's in the back seat. She gets
Gets
dropped
out
off
and goes and they just drive
and
off.
they just drive off.
It's so genius, and it takes all of like a minute and a half.
Exactly.
That is good filmmaking.
Exactly. I want to keep going like the nerd because it's the mom and his little sister giving him pressure. And by the way, that was his real mom and little sister, Michael
Really?
Anthony Hall.
That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, it's $1 million budget. It makes
And-
sense.
Exactly. And then you also get to see the pressure that the jock is under from his dad.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's just such a simple way.
Yeah.
And then, which I also loved, which I don't think this is a spoiler, but like the lunch. It's
Yes.
again another way of showing how each of them is as a person. It's just this small little thing, and it takes only a couple of minutes, but it tells us everything we need to know about
sure
the
did.
characters.
It's
so
I
good.
would like to get, well, yeah.
We're gonna get
we'll
deeper
get
into it.
But I thought the themes were serious and real, and how they displayed, genuine confusion, frustration, and anger, and the single essay that was written by Michael Anthony Hall's character, I thought summed it up really well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't-
know
I-
if you remember it.
I had a problem with that.
Oh, I like that.
I had an issue with that because it's like they all came together, but then they forced the nerd to write to be the only one that's going to write it. Yeah, we don't want to write it. Why don't you write it? I didn't like that.
I felt that he was more of a spokesperson. I got and maybe I'm giving it too much credit.
No, that's a fair. I mean, it's
Because-
art. We both came to two different
Because
conclusions.
part of why I think that works is we were 5 and now we'll have one voice.
That's a good way to look at it.
And that
I
is
can
how
see where
I
you're
took
coming
it.
from. Totally. Yeah.
And that's why it made sense to me. And he
Okay.
wanted to do it. He was like, yeah.
Yeah, because he kind of like seeks their approval, right? He's
Seeks
like,
their approval, and he also knew he'd crush it.
yeah. They were like, well, you're the smart one.
Right.
He's like, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see where you're coming
And I
from.
can see
there.
where you're coming from too. I totally appreciate that. So I think we should just see if our stars align.
You want to see if our stars align?
Yeah,
on this
I know
one?
they don't.
You never know.
Because
see,
I
I
might have
gotta
been I might have been
remember-
too generous, and I okay, I'm going to guess yours
Because
first.
it hit you so hard.
Right.
I'm thinking you gave
but
it pretty
that's,
hefty.
But that's where it's like, am I being objective about it? But then again, how am I going to be completely objective about something, a piece of art that moves you?
it's hard, yeah.
It really is hard. But if you look at how the movie was done, like just by movie making and storytelling, that was excellent storytelling.
100% couldn't agree more. So what do you think I gave it, given all that context?
I think you gave it 3.5 stars.
I did.
Okay.
And I think you gave it 4.
You are correct.
Yeah, see, we're not too far off, man. We're good
Yeah.
at guessing each other's
That is true.
reviews.
That is true. That is true.
But that makes total sense. I mean, I think, given your experience and how it moved you, and like what we talked about, how brilliant some of the filmmaking aspects were in the performances, yeah, it deserves a 4.
I think so. I look forward to talking about it a little bit more. First,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out some fun facts.
This is exciting. I want to know. Tell me.
There were so many, it was really hard to choose from.
See, this is good. I love
So-
when we do the legacy apps because there's always a lot of great stuff.
And because also it comes out years and years and years later.
Yeah.
Where the actors will talk about, 20 years later.
Somebody one of your friends the other night was telling us they just all got together again for the first time.
They did. Yeah. It was a 40th reunion of the making of the movie.
Crazy.
I didn't click on it because I was like, I don't want to see how old they look.
Oh, yeah, sure.
No, and
That's
I also
fair.
I just didn't want to do it yet. I thought I will go back and look at that, but I just
When the time
saw
is
that-
right.
Right, when the time's right. Interesting that it took them that long, but
40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
and
Are they all still alive?
oh yeah, and Mike. Well, I think so. Michael Anthony Hall. I mean, what he has become, because now he's like a great villain, and back then
Sure.
he was like he was funny. He's
Yeah.
just a really funny guy.
Mhm. He's in 16 Candles, no?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Oh, he's so
I'll make
good
sure
at
I'm
that. And
thinking
he
of
and
that.
Molly Ringwald, they both crush it in that.
Totally.
So fun fact number 1, the cast helped form their characters. So for example, Judd Nelson, the quote unquote criminal, dressed exactly the same clothes as he did for his audition, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
Also, the scene in which they sit on the floor and reveal their personal things about themselves, which I thought was probably one of the most hard-hitting scenes.
My
in the
favorite
movie.
scene in the movie by far.
Part of that, one source I said it was improvised. Another part said it was partially improvised. I found that this one source said that John Hughes told the actors to ad-lib the reasons why they were in detention. So
Whoa.
impressive.
Wow. That changes a lot.
Doesn't it? Because all the reasons they gave, some of them were like pretty detailed, and also the other actors are reacting to something that's being ad-libbed.
Oh my God.
So when Michael Anthony Hall's character talks about they found a gun in my locker, and then they're asking
their
the
reactions.
questions,
Yeah.
and then Ali Sheedy asked a poignant question: was it a handgun?
Yeah. Wow,
know?
man, that is a very interesting fact.
The way that
It changes the way I see that scene.
totally, because Emilio Estevez, that was
Heartbreaking.
heartbreaking.
My favorite, and then now we're here so we can talk about it. Man, the part that like I almost got choked up at was Michael Anthony Hall's character when he says, "Are we all going to be friends again
Yes,
if we see each other?" And then when they all kind of like, no, that like breaks him because he had friends.
it breaks him also because I love what he says. I would come up and say hello to all of you.
Yeah, and you
And
wouldn't
Molly
do the same
Ringwald,
to me.
that's because you look up to us.
Mm.
It's like, oh man,
And it crushes him.
I would like. I have the thought when I watched that a few days ago when that conversation was happening in the movie, and thinking, I wonder if she could see herself, if she were a real person and saw that 10 years later, she'd probably be like, I can't believe I said that.
Sure.
But she said she was being honest, and
Totally.
they were.
Yeah,
I thought it was a great question.
absolutely.
What a fantastic thing to pose.
It was my favorite part of the movie.
Okay. And it was hard for me to pick like a scene to talk about, which we'll get to, and because it was a part of that scene.
Sure.
My favorite aspect, I guess I would say.
Okay.
Second fun fact, though, just to throw out a few more, Judd Nelson stayed in character off camera and even antagonized Molly Ringwald. And this so upset John Hughes that he came very close to firing him.
Whoa.
It was Paul Gleason, who played Principal Vernon, that came to Nelson's defense, telling Hughes that he was a really good actor, that Nelson was, and he was just trying to get into character. John Cusack almost got that part. He flew out to Chicago and auditioned, and it was down to the two of them. So it would have been John Cusack who would have come in, if he had an open schedule, to play that part. And it would have been a totally different thing, because Judd Nelson brings an edginess that I think John Cusack could pull off. But
it's always the what ifs.
It's
always
the
what ifs. But what could have the movie? Would it have been different? You know, of course it would have been.
Exactly.
What that would have looked like, we may never know. But
yeah, I know.
That's very interesting.
I thought that was. And the third fun fact, and then let's just get into discussing this particular scene, is that John Hughes wrote this over 2 days, over a weekend.
I didn't need to hear that. You didn't need to tell me that.
So my question is, what'd you do last weekend,
That
Ryan?
makes me feel terrible about myself. I'm like eating a hamburger and watching, TV shows and playing video games, and this guy's writing, one of the most classic 80's movies of all time.
Okay, I'll throw in one more fun fact, because it is so much fun. Do you remember the scene where the jock is looking through the nerd's wallet? And he's like, this is the worst fake ID I've ever seen.
Yes.
And he says to him, do you realize you made yourself 68 years old? Which made me laugh. And he goes, why'd you do that? Or he said, why'd you get a fake ID? Do you remember his answer?
No.
So I could vote.
Yeah, I do.
And that was
that.
improvised.
I could vote.
I love that.
That's great.
I love that was improvised. That made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
I mean, who does that?
Right, right. That's so good.
Okay, so we've already given some spoilers, but there are more spoilers ahead. So so there you go. So Ryan, I do want to look at the scene where they're all in the library, of course, and they've already gotten stoned. And I laughed at this because that weed lasted about 15 minutes. That's the way weed was back then. So by this time,
stems, baby.
Exactly. So by this time, and mostly oregano, maybe. But by this time they're pretty sober, and they're sitting on the floor, talking. They're like sitting in a circle, and this is where I just thought this movie was just firing on all cylinders. I was really impressed by it.
Yeah.
You were not?
Well, the floor scene?
Yeah.
Oh, the floor. It was my favorite part of the movie, without question.
I
love the camera work, especially when the jock is given his spiel. He's given his part, his reasons why, and all that. What he did to that kid, and the camera is just slowly moving beyond and behind everyone. That's what I'm talking about. When we talked about in a previous episode we just did about overuse of elements.
Right.
If he's doing that the whole movie, I could give a shit.
That's
but
right.
It was so impactful there.
Because he did it
one time.
That's right.
And I felt it. I was like, this is fantastic.
It was so hard for me to pick out one element because, quite frankly, that like the looking, Ali Sheedy dropping all the contents of her purse onto the couch, and the conversation that led to, and then that led to the sitting on the floor scene. So it was a really pretty big chunk of the movie.
Totally.
A good 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Was those two scenes, which were really, to me, one long section.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really hard to pick out a particular element or theme from that. And I rewrote my notes a few times, and I sent Ryan a couple different.
What did you finally?
Because it was really hard to pick.
What about it had you coming back to it? What about it had you rethinking?
Because I was really touched by a few different things. I'll just say one, like when Allison, I think's her name, Ali Sheedy's character dumps all the contents out, and anyway, it led to a discussion, and the Emilio Estevez character asks, he comes, she walks away because her feelings have been hurt, and he goes after her. And it's like, let's talk, like, and he eventually, like, things at home are rough, and she's like, yeah, and I love how he really listened to her. And he really took it in. And he didn't just say, yeah, things are rough for me too. He asked her another question. He said, it's like what do they do? What happens to you at home?
Yeah, it was genuine.
And she said, they ignore me.
Oh, heartbreak. And that's comes back to what I said about when they first get dropped off. You know, she gets dropped off out of the car, and then she goes to like say something to them, and they just speed off. And then we know from that point forward what her story is. And then we start to get she just reveals it ever so slowly, peels back the layers. And that's what makes this movie so effective, is because it slowly starts to peel away.
It does.
It's not a boom reveal.
Nope.
It's just slowly
Yeah.
dumping the contents out of the bag.
Yeah, and it's very human.
The sandwich she eats of sugar and
That was her
Captain
ad-libbing
Crunch.
as well, because she
Yeah.
thought she wanted the sandwich to have more crunch, so it was her idea to put that sandwich together. It was
Oh.
also Ali Sheedy's idea that Claire would be eating sushi.
Yeah,
So-
that's true. She was fantastic. That's what I mean. That was just such a fantastic
And in
moment, too.
1985, sushi, it's like, what?
That's bizarre. That's why they all were like, what?
I love it.
Again, just like that's probably my second favorite part of the film is when they all have the lunch.
Yeah, because it said so much about each of them.
Much.
It did.
Andrew the jock
Yeah.
he dumps out like 7 sandwiches and cookies and chips and you know, all sorts of
That
stuff.
was awesome.
Which, by the way, actually maybe would not have been a wrestler's. He would have been cutting weight.
Yeah, but he has to
would've had,
consume
like-
a lot of calories.
would've had,
too.
like,
yeah, that's true. Because they have to do weigh-ins. That's true.
Yeah, you gotta
So,
be cutting, man.
That's
You
true. If
would
you're
have
on
a
the
spit
football
cup.
team, he would.
Yeah, maybe the football
Sure.
team. Yeah, he's got a bulk.
That's a good point.
He's
Okay,
got a
we
bulk
gotta.
up.
Well, John Hughes is gone, so we can't get those notes back to him.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
so they're all. So in this scene, you know the one I'm talking about. They're all sitting on the scene, and Judd Nelson's character, the criminal, has gone after Molly Ringwald's character pretty freaking hard. So after they actually just kind of go quiet, finally, and it's Andrew the jock who says, "My God, are we gonna just be like our parents?"
Oh, yeah.
And Claire's the first one to answer, and she says, "Not me, ever." And then Allison, the loner, says, "It's unavoidable. It just happens." And Claire asks, "What happens?" To which Allison replies, "When you grow up, your heart dies."
God, that hurts. That one hurts. Totally does. Yeah. I can imagine it'd be tough to land on what part of that beautiful scene to choose to talk about.
Well, and to me, there are 2 more lines, though, too, because then the criminal says, "Well, who cares?" And they go back to Allison with tears in her eyes. She said, "I care."
Oh, yeah, that's a moving moment. Yeah. that hurts.
It does.
When you grow up, your heart does. Yeah.
So that's what I want to focus on for this little theme part,
Okay.
because she hit on something to me that it really struck a chord with me, and that is about how we grow up and when we become adults. And if we've gone to college, then we leave college and you get a job, and then you're paying rent, and now you're paying your own insurance, and you're paying your own bills, and you're getting caught up
Taxes.
into your life and the taxes, and then you have a partner, and then you have kids, and you're doing the life and doing, and you're just trying to get by, and you're trying to keep your head above water. And bit by bit, slowly by slowly, you have become the summation of your conditioning and of your habits. And you could be like, oh my God, the Friendship we just saw, where the wife, Kate Mara, says, go see him who asked you go see our neighbor who asked you for drinks, because you're here every
You
night.
sit in the same spot every night.
And that can happen to all of us, where we're just doing our lives and we're doing what we do, and we know when we're going to do it, and it becomes almost predictable. And in that sense, you can start to lose wonder in life.
Yeah.
And you lose your spontaneity. And as people get older, I'm very aware of this. You can become stiffer in your mind, stiffer in your body. Your acceptance of things gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And to me, that's what I heard when she says your heart dies. She's living in a family that's ignoring her. And, I'm sure there are multitude issues involved there, but that could also just be a case of of almost an internal drift from, the kid that they were.
Of course.
Who was full of like, look at that, that is so cool.
Childlike wonder.
It's like, and you're older. It's like, I know what that is. I've been there.
Yeah, you lose it.
And so that's what really struck me. So a question I have for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
In that vein.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you still have spontaneity in your life? Like, do you every now and again just go, I want to go do that?
I think, listen, this theme resonates really deeply with me.
Okay.
Because I do feel like I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I have we have one life mindset. And that drives a lot of the decisions that I make in my life. And it drives a lot of like how I see the world of like, I try to do my best to maintain that childlike wonder and that spontaneity because I'm very conscious of the fact that I don't have long here. And this is just my personal belief, like this is it. This is all I have is right here, right now. And so I do, it does kind of affect the lens through which I see the world. Like you've mentioned before, and I loved this when you said this, it was a previous episode, but you said there's no real thing as boredom because there's so much beauty in everything.
Yeah.
Like there's so much, and all you have to do is look at a kid.
Right.
Because a kid is like, oh my God, this stuff. Like it's just, they're amazed by everything. My dad used to call me Tommy Toggle. You got to touch every single thing, the remote
Good for you.
The handle on it's just everything amazes you. And you're right, it's sad that once you get older, you've seen it all. You've done it all. And
or
so,
you think.
Or so you think. And so that wonder kind of dies away.
Right.
And I think that's a hard pill to swallow. And so I do try in my daily life to find that wonder in things. And I'm so curious, and I'm always eager to learn and try new things and branch out and be open to different ideas and expand my horizons because I do think that, yeah, this is it. This is all I've got. So I have to try to maintain that. I don't want to be that just empty vessel.
Right. Good for you,
Floating
man.
through life, just paying bills and going to work.
Yeah, I love the perspective you have.
Right back at you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
What about you though? Like, what do you feel that as well? I mean, we just spoke about how you said to me that there's no such thing as boredom. There's so much interesting beauty in every moment and every.
I do my best to recognize when I'm doing things kind of out of rote, and I guess part of the way I'm wired is it starts to bother me after a while, and I need to do something to shake it up. Sometimes I actually think more routine in my life would help me more, but it's actually really important to me. I mean, like I'm in the quest to be an actor, I'm back to doing gig work and doing different types of work to keep myself alive and fed and stuff while I pursue this. And I'm going to be doing a gig in 2 weeks, something I've never done before at the ripe young age of 61. And it's like, okay, well, let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
And part of me is kind of terrified. And the other part's like, but I just think I could get some great stories out of this.
It's a new experience.
It's a new experience. I'm going to be working at a wedding.
It's something you've never done.
I'm going to work for a wedding planner. And she said, it's a high end, like Western ranch style wedding in Santa Ynez. Okay. I've never done that before.
Yeah, it's a new opportunity.
It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, totally.
And it's a huge budget thing, and it's just going to be okay. I'll try it. To me, that's really important. And again, I think I kind of like the fact that I'm wired the way that if I feel like there's too much rote, or if I'm too in my conditioning and doing things I always do them, it really does upset me.
I'm with you. I'm the same exact way, where sometimes it could be something as simple as going the opposite direction in my walk.
That's actually in my notes, is that me too, because I try to drive a different way here.
Exactly.
Take a different route. Last night going home from acting class, like, I'll go this way.
It
you know?
feels like you're on autopilot sometimes. You just hit the cruise control.
Well, and that's where, yes, and that's where I could see, who knows what, again, we have no more insight into this fictitious character in the movie. But that's what I thought when she says, when you become an adult, your heart dies. To me, that's losing that. And I could see how if you become an adult who has become more and more dulled just to the beauty of life, then you're ignoring yourself. And of course you're going to ignore your kids, because that's what you're doing. You're closing yourself off.
Yeah, we see it so many times. And I think it's important to note this is, I want to come back to a previous point about this, how purposeful everything was in this film, because that her saying that makes so much sense, because she is ignored at home. So
Yes.
she would feel that way.
And what a beautiful way to say it. When you become an adult, your heart dies.
She's seen it.
It's not, because if your heart died, you're dead, right? I mean, your heart beats your blood and blah, blah, blah. But she's not talking about that.
No, she's talking about you become an empty vessel.
She's talking about love of life. That's the heart is the love of being here.
Yeah. You lose it when you get older. You know?
Right. And this movie takes place and becomes a bit of an inflection point for all five of them.
Totally.
Something that might not be absolute, like they're going to come out of that completely differently, but 1 or 2 degrees.
Sure.
Because now they're actually seeing each other quite differently. We got to see that the princess doesn't actually want to feel all this peer pressure, and she kind of hates it.
Yeah.
But she's in it, because she doesn't know what else to do, or that's just how it is. And that's part of where I had to give that the 4 stars, because there was so much thoughtfulness in this. And yes, it's a teenage coming of age comedy, but it just had
it's got a lot of heart.
a lot.
And it's very grounded.
Yeah. It really is.
And I will say the themes hold up. Sure, I'm saying it's dated, but a lot of the themes that we're talking about, a lot of this, it's still extremely relevant today. I mean, it's a very human thing.
It sure is, and
it might even be more so now. I don't know.
Well, and that's why I was really curious to hear your perspective, because you're half my age, and so I was just really wondering, how does this hit you, seeing a movie that is dated? Look, the internet was still 5 years away; it hadn't even been invented yet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And personal devices were 10 to 15 years away from this. So the whole and social justice issues were just quasi non-existent back then.
Yeah.
And so it's a very different mentality, a different time, and things were a little bit slower and a little more simple.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's where I just really wanted to hear how you viewed this beyond it being dated.
I feel like this is so extremely relevant, the themes, to today. I see it. I mean, listen, I'm in that age of life where I'm starting to open the next chapter, and I'm starting to step into that next phase of my life of settling down and of trying to start a career and things like that. And I do feel some of that existential angst of man, I don't want to just become this go to work, come home, pay the bills, go to work, come. I don't want to become that. I want to maintain. And that's part of my, desire to go a different route, or to try a different place we've never been, or say yes to that crazy plan we don't really want to go to. You know what I mean? Just to shake it up, just to experience life.
The fact that you're already thinking the way you are, I think you're going to be just fine. I mean, the fact that you are already someone who's like, I'll take a different way walking this time. That to me, that says a lot.
I appreciate that.
And I also love that, hey, we got one time around, as far as I know. And so let's make this count.
Let's make the most of it. Yeah.
So hats off to you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm going to recommend 5 movies if you like this one.
Okay.
And let's make 4 of them John Hughes classics. Why not?
You have to, right? I mean, that's just the way it goes.
And it is the way it goes. And also, these are really worth seeing, I think. So,
definitely.
Number 1 is 16 Candles, starring Molly Ringwald. And it's about a sweet 16 birthday that is anything but special because, well, her family forgets about it. And she has a rather rough day, and it's fantastic.
It is.
You can stream that on Max.
Great movie.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which he wrote, starring Matthew Broderick. Really, do I have to tell you what it's about? Please, come on. If you haven't seen it, please do so right now. Stream that on Paramount Plus. The third one is Pretty in Pink. Came out the same year as Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I've seen this too, and I love this movie as well.
Awesome. Starring Molly Ringwald again, about young love and class differences. So you could say it's Molly Ringwald's Sophie's Choice. Okay, I just said that.
Yeah.
And you can see that on Prime Video.
The lady of the 80s.
Absolutely,
she was the queen of the 80s.
And for John Hughes, talk about
totally what a
his
duo.
muse. Some Kind of Wonderful, starring Eric Stoltz and Mary Stuart Masterson, about a teenage love triangle. What could go wrong? See that on Paramount Plus. And the last, which is not one of John Hughes' films, but I just thought it'd be a good one to throw in there, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, starring Thomas Mann, R.J. Seiler, and Olivia Cooke. High schooler makes friends with a classmate who's just been diagnosed with cancer. I confess I haven't seen it, but I really want to.
I have seen it.
And?
I think people should watch it.
Okay.
I recommend.
And we'll be able to see that on Prime Video.
All right.
So I just want to say to all y'all out there, thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back, look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time.
Peace.